Hello and welcome to my video today. This is kind of a maintenance video. I'm going to be covering how to check up on your charging setup in your garage or anywhere that you're charging at home. And this includes either plug-in EVSEs or car chargers or hardwired chargers. And it's probably a good idea to do this every year or so just to make sure the wiring is okay. So let's get started. This is basically fairly simple. However, I want to let you know, if you're not comfortable working with your wiring, go ahead and get an electrician to do this for you. It's for your ease of mind, and I do recommend getting this done. That said, I'm going to be turning the power off to my garage so that it is safe to work on. And you're going to need some tools, screwdriver, a torque wrench or torque screwdriver, and probably some work gloves. And that's about it. If your garage where you're working on this is dark, you may need to have a portable light or battery powered light so that you can see, because once I turn the power off, the only light that I'll have is the sunlight outside or the portable lighting. So let me go and shut off the power to my garage. I happen to have an external box on the side of the house that has a breaker that is for the garage. So I'm gonna open this up. And as you can see in here, it's a little dark, but there's a breaker right here. I'm gonna flip this to the off position. And then when I'm done with this checkup, I'll turn it back on. All right, here is the load center or power panel or sub panel for the garage. I am going to turn the breakers off for the two charging breakers that I have right here. Really doesn't matter because there's no power to this box at this point. Here is the NEMA 1450 outlet that I have for one of my EV chargers. And that's right near the panel, so pretty convenient. I'm going to take off this cover plate. It's always a good idea to make sure to double check that the power is off. I'm going to do that right now. Yep, no power is on. Now I am going to remove the outlet from the box so I can get access to the wiring behind it. So you'll probably need a combination of flathead and Phillips head screwdrivers or bits to access this area. All right, I've removed all the screws holding it in. Now I can access the actual outlet. What is recommended for this outlet and also the breaker depends on the manufacturer. It's best to check the sides of the outlet or the breaker, and it'll tell you what the proper torque is for this device. And it also depends on the size of the wires. For example, I have 6-gauge wires connected here, and the recommended torque is 27 inch-pounds, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I happen to have a torque screwdriver here, and I'm going to adjust the setting on it so that it is 27. And there we go. I'm at 27 on the dial. And then depending on the type of mechanism for holding down the wires, you may need to have a Phillips head, flathead, or some other shape that your outlet uses for tightening down the wires onto the back of the outlet. I'm not going to pull the outlet all the way out since the wiring is very thick. The best thing that I'm going to be doing is bending the outlet so it's like this so that I have access to the back of it. There are some outlets that have connectors on the sides and some on the rear, so it just depends on which one that you're using. All right, so now I'm going to take the torque screwdriver, insert it into the opening, and then I'm going to turn it until I hear it click. All right, so there it clicks. So I actually had to turn it a few times. So yeah, over time, the heating and cooling of these wires can cause them to loosen up in the outlet. So it's a really good idea to make sure these are torqued down correctly, because over time you don't want these wires to get loose and have a problem with the outlet. There could be major issues of melting if the wires get loose, and that is definitely a really bad thing. You want to keep these outlets in good shape. I also recommend using industrial versions of these outlets. For example, this one here was fairly expensive. These are in the $50 to $100 region for pricing versus the $10 to $15 ones that you find at the local hardware store. Those are not designed for the high power usage that these outlets experience. So I'm going to check the other 3 connections and make sure they are all properly torqued. That one is good. Now for the top one. And for the last one back here. All right. So we got all of these properly torqued. All right, at this point, I'm going to bend the wiring carefully back into the outlet box. Make sure that the wires are in nicely. And then I will reattach the 4 screws that hold it in. All right, so once I have those 4 screws in, I can now put the cover plate back on and then put those 4 screws back in. All right, so the outlet is now put back together. I'll do the same for my other outlet that's in the back of the garage. This one's a NEMA 1450. The one in the back of the garage is a NEMA 1430, but otherwise they're the same. I have 6-gauge cable going to that one, and the outlet is fairly similar to this one. So whatever I did to this one is going to be the same for the other. Now we're in the back of the garage. I have my NEMA 1430 outlet back here. Let me remove the plug from the outlet. Just like before, I have 4 screws holding it in. All right, take the plate off. And you can see the outlet now. Going to remove these 4 screws. Okay, we have the outlet loosened now. I can pull it out from the box, and now I can gently pull the wires I'm going to angle the outlets so I got a good look at the connectors here. I have my torque wrench here set for 27 inch-pounds, and I'm going to go and check all of these screws. That one is good. That one is good. That one is good. That one is good. So yeah, no issues with these wires. They are firmly attached to the outlet and the torque was correct. So this hasn't changed in a year. So now just carefully move all the wires back into the box and rotate the outlet around so that you can put it in the correct position. So push everything back in, and then I will screw these back down. All right, so we can put the cover plate back on, put those 4 screws in place. All right, so we have the cover plate put on. Now we're done with the outlets. Now we have the sub panel that I'm going to be working on next. I need to open it up. So I need to remove these 4 screws here so I can take the cover off, and I'll have access to inside this panel. I can now pull this out, have access behind here. So we now have a good view of the breakers that are inside the box here. The 2 breakers that I'm going to be looking at are the 30 amp and 50 amp, and this is for the NEMA 1450 and the NEMA 1430. And the nice thing about this is it's fairly easy to access. The 2 wires that come out of each breaker are what we're going to be torquing down. All right, first one was pretty well torqued. Slightly on that one. Slightly on that one. And that was torqued. So yeah, pretty good on the torque for all 4 of those. And that's all there is to the sub panel or load center. Now I can put the panel cover back on and we're all set. I now have the sub panel put together, And I can now turn on the power to the garage since everything is put back into place. Let's go back out here and turn everything back on. Flip the breaker. Close the box. I should now have power. Can connect everything back together again. All right, there we go. Pretty simple to verify that the outlets and breakers for your EV charging are fully torqued. It's good to do that every, I would say, once a year to make sure that everything is working well, that there's no issues with your charging. Because if you have any issues with the wires getting loose, that may cause overheating and melting of the outlets. So really bad, you don't want that to happen. Set a reminder, check them every year or so, and trust me, that's definitely good for peace of mind. And like I mentioned, if you don't feel comfortable doing this yourself, you can always have an electrician come over and do that for you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.